said it's Rocket Man. Oh, it's Chihuahua Man. The microphone wasn't working. I had to fix the mic. Micity mic, mic. Oh, we got lots. Look at all these microphones. Shit, man. Shit. Guilbeault. This is gonna be a short one.
Moi, je veux faire un peu du judo avec ça, c'est-à-dire que son discours hier, on peut le prendre de façon aussi intéressante pour le Canada en disant, mais pour réaliser la vision du président, il a besoin du Canada. Alors, ça peut être une opportunité aussi pour nous de s'intégrer dans cette vision-là, de dire, faisons de l'Amérique du Nord un grand partenaire commercial dans le 21e siècle.
Merci tout le monde.
Oh no, they have another one because that was a follow-up. Okay. That's what I'm told, but you're the boss. I don't know, you're the boss.
There's the last one.
Thank you.
No, she is.
Oui. Antoine Trépanier du National Post. Monsieur Champagne, vous parlez avec les CEO des grandes entreprises américaines. Quand le Canada dit tout est sur la table en termes de riposte, est-ce que vous avez évoqué au grand patron de Boeing la possibilité d'imposer des représailles particulières à Boeing ou aussi à Lockheed Martin pour les F-35, par exemple? Est-ce que vous avez amené ça sur la table auprès d'eux?
Moi, je ne pense pas que la réponse, puis on en a discuté souvent avec l'ambassadrice, ma collègue Mary, qui a fait le travail beaucoup, je ne pense pas que les menaces, c'est le ton qu'on doit employer. Moi, je suis plutôt à dire qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire de plus ensemble, de faire réaliser l'interdépendance des chaînes d'approvisionnement. Vous parlez, par exemple, dans l'aviation. Je vous ramènerai un exemple que je sonne souvent, mais par exemple, le titane aujourd'hui qui est produit à Sorel, avec du titane, on fait de la poudre. Avec la poudre de titane, on fait de l'impression 3D. Avec ça, on peut faire des morceaux d'avions sur des porte-avions américains. Alors, moi, j'aime mieux faire ça de l'autre côté en disant, écoutez, il y a une opportunité devant vous, plutôt qu'à d'aller vers la menace. On a dit qu'on sera toujours là pour avoir une réponse robuste, mais je ne pense pas que le ton qu'on a employé, c'est au niveau de la menace. C'est plutôt dire, écoutez, réalisez et vous portez cette voie-là parce que c'est une entreprise américaine qui peut parler à l'administration américaine en disant, écoutez, nous, on dépend largement
A little quiet there. I can put this on too. I guess. I don't know. They tell me I have to have my fucking mug on here. I'm not happy with it, but oh, sorry, I swore. But that's it. Sorry, you gotta look at me ugly mug. For whatever reasons. So it's gonna have Guilbeault. It's basically he decides to go and endorse Mark Carney, which probably what I think would be the worst thing Mark Carney needs right now is Guilbeault, who's like, I don't want to say hated, but he's the most vilified MP after Trudeau, of course, that the Liberals have. So as soon as he like stumped or whatever for Carney, it's over. There is no chance. Like there's just the attack ads that are basically going to go on it. It's very very silly. I can gain it a bit more. Yeah, my gain. All right, there you go. It's as high as. There you go. Oh, a little bit of redlining. I don't like the red line. There. All right. So the bottom line is that he basically said that he's going to stump for him, and there's all kinds of things he said during this liberal retreat that they're doing. It's I don't even know personally why they would do a retreat. To be honest, it's like they should be doing their election camp. Maybe it's for the election campaign. I think it could. That's the only reason that makes sense. But it really, okay. There we go. Just trying to make it a little bit better shape. It doesn't make sense because they're going through a liberal, they're liberal campaign. They should be focusing everything every day in the media. Okay, yes, yesterday, of course, Trump was going to eat up all the media. But they should have been out there on the media every day on CBC, every day on CTV, every day on Rebel, taking their licks. and whatever other news, North, North Face, I was going to say, True North News, I don't know, it's like a comic book character. Carney a trouvé pour dans à Mimi Boucher, pas dans France de tout pariel. Well, but why? Didn't you have a problem with your ex-wife? And she was anyway. Completely.
du Canada pour
They should have been just focused. They should be focusing on the Liberal leadership campaign, and I believe on the leadership campaign, they're going to find out what works and what's not pretty quick. They got a Bayliss is the only one I think I see right now that actually potentially could do something for the party. I don't know if he's going to win because he hasn't got much. I see him all the time, but it doesn't seem like the Liberal Party is giving him much space, for lack of a better thing. But Guilbeault coming out for Mark Carney is foolish. Why would you? I don't think they're reading the polls. Here he is right there. I got it up. Okay, here we go. Like, even if there are people who, back in the day supported the Guilbeault environmental thing, everyone is so tired of lower investment in Canada, no major new jobs, no major new projects that are going on. Everyone is sick of it. They're like, they don't care if the world gets environmentally clouded. It's like, you know what? I want to have a job, and I want to have a good paying job, and I want to be able to afford a home. And these things are way more important than these elitist ideas. And they just do not understand it. The only way I possibly think that they're doing it on purpose to rebuild their party. They're like, well, we'll just keep on stacking it in the same people. It's the only way, but I honestly don't think that's feasible either. I think they just don't get it, and they're never going to understand it. They're like clinging on to the same, no one really gives a crap if a politician decides to change their mind. They get flack for one interview, and then it's over. Basically, if they're like, didn't you say this last time? They're like, yeah, but I found Jesus or whatever. Shouldn't mock Jesus, but that's basically it. Okay, let's listen to Guilbeault. Guilbeault stumping for Carney.
J'ai travaillé comme responsable chez Équiterre, chez Greenpeace, et c'est la raison pour laquelle je me suis lancé en politique. Nous voyons à tous les jours les impacts des changements climatiques ici et ailleurs. On peut parler des feux de forêt en Californie présentement, mais nous avons connu des feux de forêt importants, des rivières atmosphériques en Colombie-Britannique, des tempêtes incroyables partout à l'échelle du pays. Les coûts des changements climatiques ont augmenté par un facteur de 10 au cours de la dernière décennie. Donc, c'est un prix que les Canadiens et les Canadiennes payent à tous les jours. Et nous avons une décision importante à prendre dans le cadre de la course à la chefferie d'ici le 9 mars, c'est-à-dire qui sera la prochaine personne qui va mener le Parti libéral à la prochaine élection et qui est la meilleure personne pour faire face à un Poilievre qui, lui, refuse même de reconnaître l'existence des changements climatiques. Alors, je suis ici aujourd'hui pour vous annoncer que dans le cadre de la course à la chefferie du Parti libéral du Canada, je vais appuyer Mark Carney, que je connais depuis des années, qui a démontré à quel point il comprend bien l'enjeu des changements climatiques, mais aussi l'enjeu de la transition énergétique, l'enjeu des finances et comment on peut à la fois passer à travers des crises, que ce soit la crise financière de 2008, que ce soit le Brexit alors qu'il était gouverneur de la Banque de Grande-Bretagne, mais aussi sa vision sur la transition énergétique et comment on peut utiliser ça pour faire du Canada un pays plus prospère. Alors pour toutes ces raisons-là, et pour le genre de planète que je veux laisser à mes enfants et peut-être un jour à mes petits-enfants, je vais appuyer Mark Carney dans le cadre de la course à la chefferie. Good afternoon, everyone. As many of you know, I've dedicated my life in the fight against climate change and in protecting the environment for Canadians. I have worked on this in my previous life before I was in politics, and in politics, obviously, it has been the cornerstone of just about everything I have done. We are seeing the impacts of climate change every day in Canada and around the world. We could talk about forest fires in California, forest fires we've seen here in Canada, atmospheric rivers, storms, surges in Canada and all around the world. And the cost of climate change is increasing. It's increased by tenfold in the last decade alone in Canada. This is something that Canadians are faced with and are paying for day in and day out. We have an important decision to make as part of the leadership race of the Liberal Party of Canada by March 9th. And I'm here to tell you today that I will be offering my support to Mark Carney. I've known Mark for many years. We've worked together on issues of green energy, transition, fighting climate change, and the role of the financial sector in fighting climate change. Mark has worked to mobilize actors all around the world. He's a special advisor to the UN Secretary General on the issue of climate change and green financing. He has the experience, he has the background, he's navigated crisis when he was at the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, and I know he's the right person to help bring us into the next phase of our work to support Canadians, to build a strong economy and to fight climate change. Thank you. Merci.
Are you okay with getting rid of the carbon tax?
As I said yesterday, it's my statement to many of you yesterday was a difficult one. I continue to believe that the consumer price on pollution is one of the best tools we have to fight climate change. It's not the only one. We also have an industrial component to it, to carbon pricing, which is very important, which gives us the bulk of our emission reduction. But our plan is
Okay, here, people, the you and me, just the two of us that are watching. This is why I am tired, and I will never allow myself to be succumbed by a minister, a person who wants to run into politics, who's running for an idea. I want to see someone who's running for Canada. And once they have an idea, like he won't bend. He just doesn't get it. He just said the best way is carbon tax. Remember, 77% of people want the election. Over 85% of the people say they should not have carbon tax on the people, right? The industry, there's a little bit of nuance that can happen there, but everyone has basically said we do not want this tax on just average, consumers. We don't. And what does he do? He's still, whoever's paying his bankrolling his ideas, or maybe whatever, whoever's in his head, they will never get out. He doesn't even care that over 80% of the population is like, he doesn't care. That's why you need politicians who don't have an agenda beyond, personally, that's my opinion here, that don't have an agenda beyond, I want to do it for Canadians, not for, he came into Parliament in his previous life is his same life. He's not like a new person. He's identical. He's identical freaking person because he's actually saying the same things. He just said government is supposed to take care of climate change because it's getting worse. You can think that the environment's getting worse and green and all that, but people have basically said, and not just here, voted kind of around the world, but you're only in Canada. And Canada, we have 70% that are saying we don't want you to take care of the environment for us anymore. Not right now, because you've proven you're just costing us more money. He just says, well, it's 10 times more money. Well, yeah, because inflation. It is cost more to fight forest fires because of inflation, because of your policies that are just ridiculous. We're going to add a tax to change the way you behave. Government needs to get out of how I behave. You don't lead that way. I don't think it's a good way. Well, it isn't successful. It hasn't really worked. It basically created the Trumpisms, and it's going to give the Conservatives a large majority. And the problem is everyone's going to be satisfied with Pierre for about 5 minutes because honestly, unless he comes with policies, they're not going to be satisfied for long. You're not going to lead because he doesn't have answers to fix the problems, these huge problems that the Liberals have. So I don't see him lasting unless he comes up with policies that actually will work. But I don't see it. Honestly, right now, I wish I was not seeing this the way I see it. I wish I would see sunny ways coming from flipping, but this flip is just the same shit. And NDP, they're just, I'm Jagmeet Singh, I like him as an NDP, whatever, but it's all about the CEOs, the greedy CEOs. Yes, no one cares about that either. Who cares about the tech bros and stuff? People want their freedom of speech. They want cheap gas, and they want their staples to be at a reasonable price. Oh, and the biggest freaking problem in Canada, I think, the number one issue, they keep saying, or number one or number two, was the housing prices. And tied with that is inflation prices. That's it. We don't want these politicians to do anything else. And he won't tack anywhere else because he's a politician who came in here with an agenda and how to change Canada. And it was only environment, and he won't bend. So this is why I believe Trump is starting to get rid of that type of politician, at least through his rhetoric. And I think we here in Canada need to do this also. Like, why ask them, why are you in? And what is it? And once, say, if you, like, these people can have an agenda, but once you know what I mean, you look at the polls and when you're at 70% against your carbon tax, you tack, but he won't because anyway, I'm repeating. No one ever read about the snowball Earth that happens every 100,000 years. I don't know. The thing is, I like clean water, like Trump says. I like clean water. I like clean air. I think we should be treating our industrial waste better as we're just dumping it straight into the air. But I don't think that we should be changing what people have to buy. Now people have to buy an electric vehicle. An electric vehicle is outrageously priced, and they don't have a very far distance. Like, come on. I can buy a car for $2,000, or I have to buy a brand new electric one for minimum $40,000. Like, hey, that's great. If you got the money, yeah, they're great. But that's not feasible to the average person. And this type of politician doesn't care. The only thing he cares about is every percentage of point that Canadian is forced to, no matter how they're forced to. This is the type of eugenics type of people. He's a eugenic person. You're not really good enough. We're gonna make sure you're not working, and we're gonna deviate. This is the ends. These are it's the secret ones, and I'm tired of them. I'm sick and possibly sick and tired of having an agenda that doesn't have the people first. That's all. That's all I want. They call it these every time I'm going to see media say, "Oh, it's populism," or something. Yeah, that's what we want. No one wants Why do I want to vote someone in who doesn't care about the people first? And I mean the majority, and the people that are hurting. If we were losing billionaires and that was going down, I think, yeah, that would be to blue collar or whatever. That would be kind of something you need to worry about. We need a certain amount of rich, because those rich people can go fight for Canada in a way worldwide, right? Great, but when it's not happening that way, we're getting more billionaires every day, and we're having, you can't afford a home if you make anything under, if you didn't go to college, you can't afford a home. Bottom line, right now, unless you own a business or you're a drug dealer. Well, that's real good. We got to sell somebody to, a couple of people, a couple of slaves, so I can afford a home. That's what's creating, because we got yayas like this. Housing prices, mine went up 100,000. Yeah, so everyone's like, yeah, that's great. It went up $100,000. I got money in the bank. The problem is those people are the ones that are voting. But it's come to the point where it's beyond. We're actually going to lose a whole generation of not affording home because we have agenda politicians who don't care about the people. And we had a media that supported him say, hey, that's populist. Well, yeah, populist. And giving out, remember how he said, they're giving out $200? That's not populist. It's not populist at all. That's actually anti-populist. It's a baloney. It doesn't do anything for the country. It's just borrowing money, literally. It's not like they had an excess. They were in deficit. They overspent, and then they borrowed more money to give you $200. It's not populist. Populist is building roads, building towns, getting the government out of my way so I can build a company. Having easy loans. You don't give money, $200, which is, who cares? Oh, and it was to people that were working. Give $200 to working on a loan. This is ridiculous. And like people that were like, I think it was like 40. You know what I mean? If you make over like $60,000, you've got $200. I don't think any of them you don't need it and didn't want it. It was just, that was basically the final straw that took the government down. What destroyed the government environmental plan was when they were like, Okay, carbon tax. Oh, but Atlantic Canada, who we need their support, we're going to give them a break on it. And we're like, wait a second, what about the rest of the country? They're like, well, they're like a liberal area. Remember that Hutchison? She says, well, if they were to vote liberal, she said that on CTV. It's like the meme of the year. It's like, awful, disgusting whorepig. Ooh, no, that's I take that back. That's way too far. That was an awful, disgusting thing to say. That if you vote our way, we're going to give you a tax break because the whole thing in carbon tax, it's not actually. They even admit it's not. It doesn't do anything for the environment. All it does is they think they want to change how people live. Well, wait, get out of my bedroom. Get out of how I drive my car and what I drive. That is the problem with what the left did. The WEF left. That's what they did. They decided we're going to do eugenics and we're going to eliminate anyone who doesn't have a university degree. And come on, 20,000 uh, 20,000 consultants, $20 billion in consultants. It's like this. It's almost as much as we spend on the military. They spent on consultants at the same time that they hired. Is what they did is those who are university educated vote liberal, and I know that, so they just buttered them. And they didn't do it when we had all kinds of money coming in surpluses. And then, hey, if you get a surplus like the Klein Bucks, or they had in Alberta, they'd have a surplus, and he'd just give the money away. And they're like, well, that was a good idea. Yeah, because they got so much money from oil those years. It doesn't always happen in Alberta. They just were like, well, we could spend it on stuff. I personally would have spent it on something like a really good project that would be 100% for the people, parks or something, whatever. But he decided, rightly so, maybe, to give the money directly back to the people. And they were like, well, that's populist. We'll do a populist thing by giving people $200 out of a loan that we're going to have to pay bankers back interest, the international bankers on interest. And while we have $20 billion in consultants, because these are the people they were buttering their bread and keeping them in. And this is he gets out of power, it's all over. It's fine. But right now, these people, if you're on TV, you comb your hair. I didn't comb my hair, so I take that back. Can't afford what? Yeah, and this is the thing that happened. And then another liberal policy. No one talk. The media has the machine to do the investigation, but they're not. They're not doing the investigation on it. This other policy, I follow the housing prices. So what I was thinking, I'm like, well, I can't afford a home in my Niagara region. I have to leave. I have to leave Niagara Falls. There's no choice. There's no choice in my life. I have to leave, right? Unless I win the lotto. I don't gamble. I'm never gonna buy a home here. I have to leave to save money to go. So I'm like, well, I'm looking, and and stupidly, I was taking my time. I had the cash. I should have. I paid off a fine I had. Anyway, so I should have packed up and left. Because what did Freeland did this policy, by the way? It was no investors in these certain areas like Toronto, Calgary, the cities where their support was. They stopped investors from like investor class from buying in these areas. And then what happened? All in these smaller towns where I was looking to buy, they all went up in price. Like huge. Because there's a lot of housing and condos, and now condos they're having trouble selling condos in Toronto. Like they're building condos for investor class people partially, and now they're not selling. But you want to go to rural Manitoba or rural Saskatchewan, they've quadrupled in price as soon as that bill that law was put through. So it was actually before it was legal. It just jumped it. People were like they got the signal. Don't buy in the big eights, the big eight cities. They bought all rural, and it just destroyed the smaller markets for the investor class. Like, and then we had the housing minister who says we're going to give money to anybody, all these cities, if they do what we want. So they gave money to Toronto, and then Toronto said no. They started demanding higher prices they raised the price of the permit after they took the federal money and said we won't raise the price for. They voted to vote for it, and they still, the Liberals, now he's now long. This housing minister is now not going to run again. They still gave them the money. What? A very problematic government that doesn't follow through and is not fixing the problem. And I understand that they can't fix the problem without hurting people. They have to make a new, I'm saying this over and over because I think one of them is going to get it. You have to make a new on-ramp. 2 steps of the stairs have been taken away. There's 6 steps on the housing cycle. The first 2 are gone. In my whole area, are gone. There's no like houses under $1 million. Under $1 million fucking dollars. Okay, build a new one. Good luck. $1 million. So first time 20-year-olds, no. 30-year-olds, no. Unless you're rich, unless you got rich parents, you're not buying a home until you're 30, till your 40s right now in this area. And that's if you get a shitbox house that needs renos. It's probably got some things you got to eliminate in it. That's how bad it is. It's okay in certain parts of a town that are like this. I have. You have nice parts of town that are really expensive, and it keeps the riffraff out. But they've kept the riffraff out so much that we don't have homeless problem. We have CTV doing stories that there's a former politician, an Ontario politician and lawyer. You know, he had some troubles, whatever. Who knows what they were? Divorce was basically what it was. That's what I read, divorce. And he's homeless. You know, like this is what Canada has become, the land of the shit. Good evening. Wow. Oh. Wowza. I know you are. But they said that's it. That's basically it. They are just the worst possible government we've had in power. Now, they got in power for I think a good reason, the cannabis, and people were tired of the anti-media rhetoric, okay? Trump is anti-media, my ass. Trump is aggressive. You're aggressive to him, you get it. But he has been in the media how much? Look at how much he's in the media. Today he did another press conference. He's not anti-media. He's a fighter. And part of the media's job is to hit the politician, and I mean verbally, right? Do this verbal lashings. That's part of their job for their subscribers or this and that. It's part of it. So, and that makes it good for a good show. So I don't want them to stop and all of a sudden everyone treat Trump nicely. No, fairly, but doesn't need to be all nice. Like, you know, these attacks on Trump and stuff like that. Fantastic. That's what we need. But they need to be fair. They haven't been fair, and they were so biased. But Trump still got out there and went, fake news. But he allowed them all and did them all. Where Pierre's saying, no, we won't even talk to you. I don't. The conservative were doing that. Under Harper was doing that as well. And I kind of agreed with him, but I also wanted to see him on interviews, right? And hey, if you don't do interviews, you don't slip up, especially with a media that is looking for it, right? So I understand why they don't do it. It's political. It's a political thing, but I don't care. I want a politician that's out there who does their job. And nowadays in the media, social media world, their job is to be out there all the time. At least not all of the MPs. You have like what they said. They have some workhorses. You have some show horses. You know, and there's the guys like Chong, who's a lawyer and brilliant, who isn't as exciting as Pierre. He should be doing the legislation and making the policies, especially the foreign interference. And then you got the show ponies, like Pierre is a great show pony. He does it good, and he should be out there every freaking time for all the media. And so the media makes money. I think just like Trump, my opinion. But that's how Trudeau got in. Cannabis and sunny ways. He was like giving the media what they wanted. And the media and also the people. The people wanted to see our leaders because it's a new age, social media age, where we have access to our politicians. And so that was how he got in. And then since then, he decided that he got in for environmentalism. He didn't get in that way. I don't think that was even a part of his platform at first. Maybe I didn't hear it. I wasn't listening for it either. But if it was a minor part of the platform. But every year since the cannabis, what they tried to do is expand that and like make every drug legal. They tried that in BC. That lasted 3 months, and they're like, "This is a disaster. They're giving out hard drugs to people. Ridiculous. What a country we've become. You're giving out hard drugs to people when people can't afford a home, and these drugs aren't killing. If you're trying to kill, that's not killing them. They're lasting 30 years on these hard drugs. It's not strong enough. Even their plan is ridiculous and stupid. That's a really thought. Retract. But basically, they've said, let's make home prices so expensive. And when he said we're going to work for the home price is not. He was just completely lying. Let's look at some more fuel.
Is not based on one single measure. Our plan to fight climate change is based on 100 of different measures that we've put in place. And I will continue to work with Mr. Carney to ensure that if we don't go ahead with the consumer carbon price, that we have something else in place that will both help Canadians with affordability, but that will also help us to achieve our 2030 targets.
Avez-vous eu des garanties de sa part sur le fait que justement il y aurait quelque chose de au moins équivalent en termes de montant de mégatonnes là, qui pourrait être économisé? Là?
En fait, oui, j'ai eu plusieurs conversations avec Mark et son équipe, et il l'a dit lui-même la semaine dernière, il l'avait déjà dit dans le passé, si on veut enlever un élément du plan d'action, il faut le remplacer par quelque chose qui va être au moins équivalent en termes d'efforts et de réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Et ça a été une conversation qui est très facile puisque Mark et moi, on voit beaucoup les choses de la même façon sur cette question-là de la lutte au changement climatique, du rôle du secteur financier, de l'économie du 21e siècle. J'ai eu l'occasion de collaborer avec lui à plusieurs reprises et c'est pourquoi je suis ici pour lui offrir mon appui aujourd'hui.
Is there anything that's as effective or more effective than a consumer price on carbon?
Well, yes, obviously the industrial price on pollution is more effective because it gives us 3 times more emission reduction. So one obvious answer to if we don't move ahead with consumer carbon pricing would be to tighten a system that we already have for large polluters in the country. That's certainly an avenue. There are other things we're working on, we're deploying. A cap on pollution from the oil and gas sector will be a key component of our tool to ensure that every sector of the Canadian economy, whether it's the aluminum sector, steel sector, auto sector, or oil and gas sector, does its fair share when it comes the time to reducing pollution.
How did the Liberals lose so badly on policy that's been around for 5 years? What went wrong?
Pierre Poilievre went wrong, and he lied and manipulated Canadians on this issue because for a number of years, a large amount of Canadians were in favor of the consumer pricing, and through a campaign that has largely lied and misled Canadians, he's made it a very unpopular policy.
Okay. I don't like ever trying to be in the camp of a lifetime politician. But Pierre saying the carbon tax is unpopular, unless he's talking about the people, their part of it. But the carbon tax was never popular. And you know how I know this? This is a simple fact. Okay, this is politics 101. Anyone who's the two of us that are watching here, no tax is popular. No tax is popular. You can never. And then this is the beautiful thing. What's this? Jason Smith. Would you say, Jason? This is the first thing I said when I'm like, oh, I'm too loud. The first thing I said was when they came out with it is you can't call it a tax. As soon as they called it a tax, you knew it was like, okay, we're against this. Everyone's against this. No Canadian is for anything called tax. Yes, we can say names. But the tax, it was like they put it there on purpose. That's what I think they did. I think the politicians, we got a little uni thing going here, and they're shit. And they're like, as soon as they called it tax, it's like, well, this is obviously no one's gonna like it. You can't when they call it GST. Why do they call it GST? Because they knew they had to eliminate the word tax. This is politics 101. You'll never get a person who isn't like a very small slice or percentage of people, very rich, and have an idea of how to save the world with taxes. Did income tax save the world? No, that was brought in for World War II. That was a temporary tax. GST, did GST eliminate the debt? No, that didn't, and that wasn't temporary tax either. None of these things are temporary, and none of these things it's always bullshit. And as soon as they call it a tax, I think there's enough people, first of all, enough people who are fully aware of the last dupes, like they've done this before, that they're aware. Okay, this ain't going away, first of all. Second of all, Who wants to pay more money to the government when we have the government spending $20 billion on consultants, and not just this government, all our governments, $20 billion. And we've all had to deal with the government in our lives. And we've all seen the inefficiencies. And we've all, if you work for a private company compared to the government, it's like, oh my God. And they're always rude because they're like so empowered. Their freaking union is so strong. They're like so empowered. They're so rude. And a lot of times they don't do what you ask them to. I have to be such an asshole. And I really don't like being an asshole. What did Jason say? It's a tax. They just do these taxes. It's just a horrible thing. It's to change, yeah. It's to change people's how they behave. Well, I don't need a government to change how I behave. What should be doing, as 100%, I keep saying the same thing, is how Alberta does it. They take, if they take a little bit of industrial tax, not heavy, but they put it into a big pot and they do technologies with it. So, and all the companies that are involved in that industry get to benefit from that thing. And then also, after you've done that, Canada first, you sell that technology to like other countries that want to reduce, the amount of smog. Smog in California was an issue, right? Because all the cars and stuff. That's when they got rid of lead. Like these things, then you sell it to other jurisdictions to thus pay for the program, so it starts bringing in money. You don't have to tax the industries within the country. This is just common sense. 101 common sense. The day that they said they called it a tax, it was done. You're like, okay, thank you, have a good day. Come again now. And like Saint Fu, right? STFU, Saint Fu, Saint Ange, unbelievable. 8 out of 10 Canadians, this is Jason C. says, 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back. I haven't met one yet, but I only know 6 people. What a joke this scam is. It's unbelievable. Okay, you only know 6 people. It is awful. There's no one who really wants anything to do with anything that ever says tax. So I'm going to repeat it because
considering the fact that you're not very popular in Western Canada, especially in Alberta and Saskatchewan, how is your support going to...
Sur cette question-là de la lutte au changement climatique, du rôle du secteur financier, de l'économie du 21e siècle, j'ai eu l'occasion de collaborer avec lui.
Pierre lied to everybody about the tax. Okay, maybe he lied about other things, but...
Consumer price on carbon.
Well, yes, obviously the industrial price on pollution is more effective because it gives us 3 times more emission reduction. So, one obvious answer to if we don't move ahead with consumer carbon pricing would be to tighten the system that we already have for large polluters in the country. That's certainly an avenue. There are other things we're working on. We're deploying a cap on pollution from the oil and gas sector will be a key component of our tool to ensure that every sector of the Canadian economy, whether it's the aluminum sector, steel sector, auto sector, or oil and gas sector, does its fair share when it comes the time to reducing pollution.
How did the Liberals lose so badly on policy that's been around for 5 years? What went wrong?
Pierre Poilievre went wrong, and he lied and manipulated Canadians on this issue because for a number of years, large amount of Canadians were in favor of the consumer pricing, and through a campaign that has largely lied and misled Canadians, he's made it a very unpopular policy.
Considering the fact that you're not very popular in Western Canada, especially in Alberta and Saskatchewan, how is your support going to benefit Mr. Carney in this race?
I think I'm probably popular in parts of the country and unpopular in others. I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that question. I'm going to do everything I can and help in any way I can to make sure that Mark Carney is the next leader of the Liberal Party, and then help make sure that we win the next election campaign.
On the emissions cap, are you concerned that Mr. Carney has not proven himself in the House, has not proven himself in a campaign, to throw your support behind a man that's not shown that he can actually win anything for the Liberals?
No, I'm not concerned about that.
Is a consumer carbon tax sufficient?
Why are you not concerned about that?
He has a wealth of experience navigating difficult crises. I talked earlier about the financial crisis in 2000.
Okay, Here's my take on Carney, and I know you guys. I think I feel a little bit too much staunch liberalism. I mean, conservatism here, for my own liking. But hey, that's what happened. Well, that's who follows my child. That's great. I don't. I'm okay with switching teams a little bit when you see one's good and bad. But that aside, because Mark Carney was put in by Harper. Harper is the prime minister. I think he was one of the best prime ministers we ever had. He did a lot of great things, really, really great things. He just to me, for me personally, in many ways, he's just an amazing individual. And he put Mark Carney in the Bank of, he does the Bank of Canada Gov. And so he's the one who put him there. So I kind of like digress to his opinion, to be honest, because I know he knew more, right? And he was an economist and stuff like that. And I rail on economists all the time, but he was a good one. So he brought in Carney. And then he did a very good job during the 2008 crisis and stuff like that. Everyone said so. Like, this is at the time. While it was crisis, everyone said Canada did the best job. Harper and Carney kind of worked together. They helped the banks out a little bit, but in loans, so the guy handed back. It was an outstanding job. The world around said, yes, it was a good job. That's what happened. Okay. And they did such a good job. The United Kingdom, as soon as his governorship, whatever, was over, the United Kingdom was realizing that they're having something coming up in the pipe with the Brexit and other things, and they needed some money matters were happening in England. They decided they're going to pull the guy who gave Canada a better edge when the rest of the world during that crisis. It wasn't just Harper, of course, he did a great job, but I think together, Carney and Harper together on that part helped us do good. So they for the first time in history, they pulled a Canadian. So I'm like, and he did a good job. And apparently everyone in the United Kingdom, like both sides of the aisle, conservative and Labour, which is liberal, whatever, which is like NDP more so, they both sides said he did a good job there during Brexit. Right, Brexit is a very right wing initiative, and he got good marks. So I'm like, hey, okay. So I said all that. So for these reasons, I'm like, well, Mark Carney, he's probably going to be pretty good if we bring him in for money matters, especially we have a trade deal coming up with the Americans, and more likely we're going to have some other international trade issues come up as the world is getting heated. I'm not going to go into the detail that W stuff, but that is what I'm like, hey, I think pretty good. All of that doesn't matter if you can't get elected. He's and I'm sorry to say, unless he changes how he's doing it, he's unelectable because he's not likable in the climate we have right now in Canada, because we've had 10 years of Trudeau and in the disastrous policies, as everyone believes. It's 77% of people believe that the country has gone in the wrong direction. Right? Maybe, so if you are toting the same lines as what got us in those wrong direction, Rolls Royce in a gravel parking lot, the stolen thing, and not being relatable enough, and then bringing on this guy, the biggest, most unpopular, it's like, a very unpopular, and especially his policies. Okay, maybe not as a person, whatever, but his policies, very unlikable. I don't care that he scaled the building and put a banner down. That's nice. That's great. I don't really care. Never knew it then, and I don't care about it now. I was in the military. Or whatever. Didn't pay attention to politics. So much. Do the research. What? Do the research. What is that? You're missing a dot, Moose. So they put him in. It doesn't matter how good you are if you're unelectable. And him, stumping is the word for it, is the final, I think, the final thing that's going to be for Carney. Carney's got to be like, run from the environment ideas, run from anything left. But it seems that he's not, and that will make him unelectable. And hey, Pierre, most likely, no matter who the Liberals got, to be honest, no matter who the Liberals got, Pierre is so popular and he's so on his game so much. He's an unstoppable, movable force. He's a freight train right now. and we can't build there's no liberal wall, not we, sorry, no liberal, no NDP, no Green, no one can build a wall that'll stop it. It's just an unmovable force because it's got so many Canadians of the what happened in the UK with Carney. He was popular. He was popular. He was fairly popular. He was with the Brexit. He was popular on both sides. Not like hugely popular. Like a governor of a bank is never a really super popular person. Like, do you know who Polloz is? P-O-L-O-Z. Most people don't even know who that is. It's Bank of Canada. You know what I mean? Between. So he was fairly well liked. Remember, he was put in by a conservative. So, but it doesn't matter. All of these things, doesn't matter your resume. Remember Ignatieff? Ignatieff had the resume to end all resumes. He didn't get elected in his own riding. Unbelievable. It was like the first time it ever happened. I think it happened like 100 years ago. But do the research. Are you fucking kidding me? You fucking telling me that you would do the all I do is read politics. Let's see, Bank of UK. Let's see, popularity. He was the Gov from 2013 to 2020. And you know who was in power in those times? Conservatives. A conservative government. They did Brexit. He helped Brexit. He was all on their side. Yeah, there's the Weffy things and him pictures with super rich people. He's the Bank of fucking United Kingdom. Of course he's going to be standing beside rich people. And I don't know what you're talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. What happened with the UK with Carney? He got 2 rounds. He liked with someone 2 rounds. Conservative. So him, I was actually really surprised that he was going to go stump for the Liberals when Pierre, first about 2 years ago now, he came and did a round with Pierre, and Pierre just had he danced around him with words, and there was all kinds of things, there's investment and all that. His personal life doesn't need, like, his personal opinions, I don't care. I'm not a personal opinion person. I really don't, I don't need that. We're in Canada. We don't need to have the cult of personality like the States does. They got it there. Perfect. It's beautiful. But we don't need that here because we're not as powerful, right? And so his personal opinions can be what they are. Just like some people said with Andrew Scheer. His personal opinion, he's against, he reads the Bible all the time. He's against, A's, right? He's against them. Right? But he said, he goes, that's my personal religious opinion. I looked at what Canadians, this was, I believe, the best answer. I looked at what Canadians want, and they voted and decided that it's not an issue. It's not an issue I will bring up. My personal values are not what I'm bringing forward to Canada. There is an ability, there should always allow the ability for a person to have a personal opinion and not think, hey, I'm going to put my personal opinions on the whole country because I'm the be all end all. And that's something that, we have to when a politician says that, I believe them because I don't think, I wouldn't. My personal opinions don't matter as much as polling. If the polling is really good, if it's really good polling, if it's outstanding stuff, well, then it's like, well, hey, that's what the people want. You rule the people, most so what they want. You can go against them a little bit, but when it's 70%, no. The Bank in Canada doesn't decide, all that. What the end of Carney was when he made pro-Remain comments, and that was where it was like, but see, this is it. My personal opinion was, okay, he was a pro-Remainer. That to me is not a guy we're going to say, hey, let's have coffee. I don't want to have coffee with you. You know what I mean? Maybe, whatever. But it's just not a thing. But that's not what he was doing with his policies. But people equate, you have to have all of these things. And I just want the best leader. Anyway, I give him a chance. Carney there's no way. There's no Carney left. Carney printed money, and it wasn't him that told it. The government prints the money, not the Bank of the United Kingdom. I'm sorry, I can argue with you. When I know you just hate him, and that's blind hate is just blind hate. The governor doesn't go there and do that. It's up to the government to printing money and stuff like that. Now there are certain things that they do have, but there's not too much on that part of the printing money. It's taking in loans and selling to rich people for shares and stuff like that in the country. That a lot of times goes to the wealthy people. And doing too much of that is a problem, and it's been actually all governments. But the the governor usually doesn't run independent, doesn't run buckshot, especially if they're Canadian and they're against the government of the day. It was the Brexit where I was thinking of. But yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nitka. Avoid the woke. PP lied. All right, let's get some more ammo on Carney. That's what's his name here. Guilbeault.
2008 when he was here in Canada, the
Like
Brexit in England. He has a ton of experience on the world stage, working in different G7 economies. So for all of those reasons, I have great trust in his abilities.
Monsieur Guilbeault, qu'est-ce qui vous rassure concrètement dans ce que vous avez entendu de Monsieur Carney sur le remplacement de la tarification pour les consommateurs et en tant aussi que Québécois, qu'est-ce qui vous rassure au Québec? On sait que la bourse du carbone, elle est là depuis des années et on pourrait se retrouver avec certains morcellement, si vous me passez l'expression.
Bien, honnêtement, Mark Carney est probablement l'une des personnes les plus expérimentées sur la planète sur la question de la lutte au changement climatique, le rôle des marchés financiers, le rôle de l'économie. Il conseille le secrétaire général des Nations unies sur la question du climat et de la finance. J'ai eu l'occasion de collaborer avec lui dans le passé. J'ai eu plusieurs discussions avec lui. Alors, pour toutes ces raisons-là, je suis très confiant qu'il est la bonne personne. En fait, je suis 100% confiant qu'il est la bonne personne pour nous amener à la prochaine étape en termes de développement économique au Canada, en termes de la transition énergétique, en termes de la lutte au changement climatique. Et pour ce qui est du morcellement, en fait, on a déjà un système au Canada qui permet aux provinces qui le veulent d'avoir leur propre système. C'est ce qui fait que le Québec a son système qui est différent de celui du fédéral, la Colombie-Britannique. Donc, nous, ce qu'on cherche, c'est pas nécessairement la façon dont les provinces vont réduire leurs émissions, mais c'est une obligation de résultat. Peu importe le mécanisme que vous utilisez, que ce soit la bourse du carbone, que ce soit la tarification du carbone.
Okay, here's a quote. This is BBC, so salt this one lately. Interest rates were anchored at historic lows. I actually kind of know this I remember this, but interest rates were anchored at historic lows when he took over. But he introduced a policy of, quote, air quoting, forward guidance, where the bank would try to further support the economy and encourage lending by pledging not to raise rates until unemployment fell below 7%. So he's like, we're not going to raise the rates until we get 7%. It happened. Confusion about this policy saw an MP compare him to an unreliable boyfriend. What the hell? A liberal. The liberals hated him, okay? Labor Party. The Labor Party hated him. They were like, you're like an unreliable boyfriend. Purple hair. I have nothing wrong with purple hairs in my regular social life. But when it comes into politics, usually that means they're unhinged. In 2014, he warned that the independent Scotland might have to surrender powers to the UK if it wanted to continue using the pound. He gave it to him. He described it as the toughest day of his job. He was for and basically what got him was his comments about staying. And this is it. I don't care. This is like over and over and over again. I repeat it. When Brexit happens, when the people vote, it doesn't matter what you think anymore. The people voted. I believed in democracy, and if you didn't convince the people for right or for wrong, shut up. Saint Fu you. Saint Fu. It's over. You had an opportunity to convince the people, and then you didn't. I'm not in politics, but that's when it comes to politics, and I believe that. He advocated for environmental sustainability. He became a UN Special Envoy for climate change after So he's like, environmentally. In his final weeks, saw the start of the acutest phase. Okay, so right in the final weeks, he cut the rates of the Bank of UK to support the economy. So he cut the rates, and then that was his last weekend. Yeah. So honestly, a Canadian taking over the position, and hey, Bank of UK, they get a lot more flack because London is like the banking center. That the whole country is a bank, right? Banking center, like that's a big time where their money is. So he did a decent job there. I thought he would do decent here. That's it. And everyone gives it all in a tissy. Oh, he's all hated. There was a picture of him beside Maxine, whatever the hell that Guy name is. Like, like fuck, you know, light your fucking head on fire. He did a decent job, but he's unelectable. That's it. He cut forestry management by millions. He can't cut forestry management. It wasn't his job. His job is not forestry, unless you're talking. Oh, you're talking about Guilbeault? Guilbeault forestry management. Actually, Canada is the one that started with the forestry controlled burns. It's actually started here because I learned this year. There's a jack pine. I know I shouldn't use it, but I know I shouldn't mention it. But the jack pine has a seed that you can Google this one. Have fun with this. It won't, the seed or the plant, the trees. You may notice that there's not many of these type of trees in Canada, and they used to be everywhere. They're like a pine that are orangey bark. I like the color of their bark. You always see chipmunks and squirrels on them because they got a lot of food for them, and their seeds last a long time. But they're like scraggly type. They're not good trees for 2x4s and stuff. They're not like the spruce or something. So there's not many of them. There used to be in Canada, because in maples there's a lot less maples, which is kind of funny, because we've been so good at stopping fires. This tree, the seeds won't. Very, very, very under certain like acidic conditions will the seeds sprout unless there's a fire. Like it needs a fire and it burns the outside and then it sprouts out. So there's trees that they've adapted to the natural of this. Okay, and us by controlling it so much, it actually wasn't necessarily a thing. So what they found out in BC, of course, this is a Canadian invention, controlled, and because what's happens is on our fires. Okay, thanks, buddy. There's no conservatives. So what happened is they did these controlled burns, and the controlled burns were about, because another thing that happens is the deadfall piles up on each other so high in these forests. So when it does burn, it burns so hot, it's just pure like white, that white, beautiful white ash, and it's like it burns too hot, and it's disastrous. Whereas if it were to be let naturally, which we can't do, we can't let it and have natural fires, especially we have homes everywhere. They started to do a thing is control burns, and now they're starting it. It's actually a thing. Canada, we have forests. It started in BC. I really recommend you research it. So enough of these liberals. What happened to UK with Carney? Yeah, the last thing that got him out was his comments that he said, his last, like, which was done. He went against the people. That was his last foray. Was like he said there's going to be a recession if because of Brexit. Well, there wasn't a recession actually. They did pretty good, and it worked out well. So then and then from there he went to climate change. This is the part I wasn't aware of his career at first. So he went to climate change, net zero, and then now he's here. There's no way. Like, he's basically an old guard liberal. He's turned into an old guard liberal, and he hasn't seen the error of that ways. It's like it's unelectable positionings. Those positions are unelectable right now. And today is the final I think Guilbeault has just said he's with him.
On the emissions cap, just on the emissions cap, you said that would be a key part of something that could replace the consumer carbon tax. Is it your understanding that Mr. Carney would go ahead with the emissions cap as you have spearheaded it so far?
So I'm not here to speak on behalf of Mark. He will be making his own statement in his own time on his policy vision for climate, for finance in the coming weeks. What I've given you are examples of tools that we have, whether it's the industrial pricing, whether it's the cap. We will be finalizing regulations on methane emissions so that the oil and gas sector reduce methane emissions, a very powerful greenhouse gas, by at least 75% by 2030. We will be finalizing that regulation in the coming weeks. It is, if not the world's, one of the world's most ambitious target in terms of methane emission. And you know what? Companies will do that almost at no cost and often at a benefit, because basically they're capturing gas that they can use. They're capturing natural gas that they can put to good use. So we have a number of tools in our arsenal that we can use if we decide not to go ahead with the consumer carbon pricing.
Have you talked with the carbon tax being his environment minister?
I'm sorry?
Have you talked with Mr. Carney about being his environment minister?
I have not. That's not how I roll. I didn't do that when the Prime Minister asked me to run in 2019. I didn't do that with Mark Carney, and I won't be doing that.
Is the carbon tax dead?
No, it's not. Absolutely not. We still have, as I said, all of the candidates have, to my knowledge, have said that they would continue supporting the industrial carbon pricing, which, may I remind you, gives us 3 times more emission reduction than the consumer carbon pricing. And we will continue. I mean, we know that carbon pricing is one of the most effective tools. The beauty of the consumer carbon pricing is that it was both an environmental measure as well as a social measure, because, you know, despite the lies that Pierre Poilievre has been telling Canadians, more Canadians get more money back from carbon pricing than what they pay. And so if we remove that, we not only need to replace an environmental measure with another one that would be equivalent, but we also need to find a way to continue supporting Canadians in those times of challenges with affordability and cost of living issues.
Quelle est la différence, selon vous, entre la proposition de M. Carney sur la tarification du carbone et celle de Chrystia Freeland sur les modifications qu'elle entend faire sur la tarification du carbone?
Honnêtement, je n'ai pas entendu ou vu les propositions que ma collègue, Mme Freeland, propose sur la question de la tarification. Alors, je ne peux pas répondre à cette question-là. Ce que je peux vous dire, moi, c'est que la personne qui est, à mon avis, de loin le mieux placée pour articuler une pensée, mais aussi une action concrète sur la question du rôle de la tarification du carbone, du rôle des marchés financiers dans la lutte au changement climatique, c'est Mark Carney.
Peut-être juste revenir sur les tarifs douaniers possibles qui pourraient être imposés au Canada. On a donc 2 dates butoirs qui s'affrontent, le 1er février, selon les paroles de M. Trump, et le 1er avril. Est-ce que vous avez l'impression que cette façon de faire, ça vise à déséquilibrer de façon consciente le gouvernement du Canada, ou donc comme une espèce de tactique de négociation finalement, ou est-ce que M. Trump improvise pas tout simplement au fur et à mesure?
Je ne peux pas et je ne vais pas spéculer sur ce que M. Trump pense sur ces questions-là ou quelles sont ses stratégies. Ce que je peux vous dire, c'est que nous, en tant que gouvernement responsable, nous sommes prêts à faire face à toute éventualité. S'il y a des tarifs, nous sommes prêts à intervenir. S'il n'y a pas de tarifs, nous sommes prêts à...
were the biggest deal. I think the biggest things were their environmental policies, which destroyed this government. It's actually one thing they kept on doing over and over and over again. They thought, we're going to change how people live. First of all, you're not going to have a home. You're going to be, well, it was like, oh, well, they'll have to buy small. Remember they first started, they said they'll have to buy smaller homes. Well, you can't even buy one that's under $1 million now. They went so far into the ridiculous. They made it impossible with their environment to build a pipeline. So much so, the company, for whatever it was called originally, now it's the Transatlantic Pipeline, they had to buy it for not a good deal. The company was like, "Oh, you're going to buy it, eh?" Ah. And they made them pay more than they should have by a few billion, which is a few billion is what's that? Nothing now after all the inflation. And because of the Guilbeault and the environment powerhouse out of the WEF people were deciding that. And then the third mass immigration. I'm cool with immigrants. I think immigrants is what made this country. But what the problem was is they brought in so many immigrants. There's 3 levels of government, and the 2 levels of government that absorb the majority of they have to pay the bills for the immigrants weren't given any assistance to do this. So when you have more mass immigration, right? Like I'm saying mass immigration, which if they would have kept it at normal, they brought in mass immigration. Well, that more schools, more hospitals. That is a provincial cost. So they had to raise their taxes. They got behind things. Now you got people waiting years for a surgery. It's just ridiculous. And that to me, okay, that one maybe not as an environment policy. That was a WEF policy. It's a WEF. But the only real policies they did, listen, the only policies they look, dental, $400. The children, giving kids lunches. I don't know if they have to work with, because it's not a federal thing. If there were, but I don't honestly. Maybe I'm missing a couple. It must be. It's been 10 years. But they didn't do many social policies. They didn't do the pharmacare plan, which they were supposed to. See, we pay a lot for our pharmacies because each province individually buys. Ontario gets the best deal on pharmacy because they have such a bulk and they have power. You know, they say, hey, lowering it. But what they got in on first round, they said what they were going to do was a social policy was to gather all of the pharmaceutical and be one buyer. Not every province individually fights these pharmaceutical companies. That never happened. But yeah, let me double check if you guys got any. But I don't think they did many. Besides the very end, they did a couple social policies, socialism policies, and they're very minor. And another one is like the dental. It's already a lot of times offered by people. It's environmental policy after environmental policy. The no new roads, that's development. Development has become difficult in this country. The other one is that the permitting. It takes 20 years now to open a mine in Canada. 20 years. And that's federal and provincial. 20 years to open up a mine. That's the start to doing like 20 years. So this is basically they've eliminated any outside money that was going to come. There was a really big project that they allowed circumventing through their laws. It was the Japanese company that brought in to do the LNG plant in Vancouver, and it was 63 billion. And they touted it as the biggest thing that's in sliced bread. Well, yeah, but they had to basically circumvent their own rules to allow that in. They've destroyed investment in this country because they've made the permitting process environmentally this. And what happens is this one agency investigates, and then after that one's done, another agency investigates the same things. There's a lot of duplication of it, and it's basically just I think what it was to slow down, but they slowed it down so much they've actually hurt our country's growth. So blue collar jobs. When companies aren't fighting for us, fighting for the blue collar people for work, your wages don't go up as high. They don't go as fast as inflation, who the business owners own companies. Inflation's worldwide. They're worldwide looking at not just Canada. And so, hey, they weren't fighting for us for work, for tradespeople and educated college. So our wages didn't go up as high as inflation. That's I think, pretty simple. The socialist problem that they did do, I don't know if this is social. I don't consider this a socialist issue, but I guess maybe allowing hard drugs and allowing the potential. And now BC is the only stupid province that decided, hey, we're going to try that. We're going to start handing out drugs. This is freaking the name of the drug, black and white little baggies. Like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like. And of course it's handed, and of course they're like weaker, these ones that they're handing out. So they're finding these bags in high schools. So this person is taking this,
and they want their real harsh one from their other dealer, so they sell it to a high school kid, right? And so it's getting in high school, so it's infecting the youth. Like that, I guess maybe that's a socialist policy. I would call it an anti-social policy to me. You don't hand out drugs. Um, you hand out you hand out the bars. You know, you have a drug problem. I think that tough love is the only answer. I don't think if the first of all you offer them a bed space. If we have bed spaces to get off of it, but if they're not doing that, they're living on the street. That's a jail. But a new type of jail, I think there needs to be drug jails to help people get off drugs. It's you know what I mean because you're not really a bad criminal. You're hurting yourself, which inadvertently hurts the whole society because someone with an adult brain is most likely, you know what I mean, they have more potential, especially if you're doing these hard stimulants and they're addictive. There's potential you'll do something that normally you wouldn't to get your whatever. So I think that, but they haven't done that. They didn't do these policies. They didn't make more bed spaces for addicts, but they gave you can go get it off of your local government agency. I don't know, ridiculous. Mark Carney, so Carney, his real record. Yeah, he's unelectable, unfortunately. I think. I don't know. Maybe he is electable by some, but I don't think he has. He got off on the wrong start. He's got a WEF record, and Canada is very sensitive to that right now. It's just on and now we got environmental issues that he's not done a mea culpa on. Yeah. I love this Alberta railroaded. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, the Alberta program is great. I want to talk about it. And one of the programs I liked, it was like because this is one thing is you can't because the people who've maybe had damage because of the drugs they did, you have to exercise muscle. Muscle that helps your brains, and so they need to use their muscles, and physical activity is a part of what they do. They send these people to the farms and they go help. They work for free. I don't think they work many hours. It's 5-6 hours, but they help the farmer. Right? They're working with the animals. Right? They help the farmer working with the animals, and to get out of the cycle that they're in. Like you need to get people out into into nature and to working and to having a normal that there is good things in life and they don't need drugs. A lot of times some people are generational, they don't understand or they forgot. And basically saying you're going here or you're going to the bars behind bars, that's to me is the answer. If they test them and they have a drug problem at the same time there's other problems, you know what I mean, you're having other issues. I think that's the only way. I really do. And it can't be short. Like these 3-month systems, it's just a revolving door. It doesn't work. It needs to be longer. And that's why I believe I like the Alberta plan. It's just like 100% behind it of them working. So it helps them. Maybe the farmer pays a little bit, but the money that can't much of that, maybe half goes to the person so they can buy consumables, but it has to go into the program. Like, you know what I mean? Because work for money isn't the only reason to work. Working for the sake of work is what people need to understand, especially I think in drug addict. It's not always for anything, but the work itself is its own reward. And that is my opinion. My wife is an engineer and she deals with oil. The environment permits are real hard to get. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The provincial, they've made it harder. They were already difficult. It's a disgusting business. It's a messy business, but you need to allow these things. If we got the natural resources there and there's a demand for it, I don't, if they have it already pre-signed, they have it, but the natural oil industry, it's not just permits for in that you can't build a mine, you can't build a home. 7 years it takes in Vancouver right now to get a permit approved. They built a whole there's a reserve, a Native American reserve in Vancouver, and they haven't totally built it yet, but they had a permit approved and they've already almost I should see how far it is. I don't know exactly. I haven't followed it in about 8 months. But it's basically built the whole city in a time when other people are still waiting for a 4-story high permit. And they've basically built the city. in the middle of in Vancouver, and they're making this reserve is just they're raking it in. It's in the middle of Vancouver, like you know, to be built high rise. Just unbelievable because they didn't have to deal with the permitting process of these ideologues. It's a city. You build high rise, and if you see it's 4-story, they're like, hey, do you need? It's only 4 stories. Do you need some more investors so you can build 20 stories? That's what it should be. We have investors to help you to get more stories on that building because we don't think 4 is enough. That's the only problem they should have. It's a way for drug companies to profiteer from human suffering. Yeah, I don't know. GTG. Hopefully, I'll catch another live tomorrow. Good night.
À continuer cette collaboration-là entre le Canada et les États-Unis, qui, d'un point de vue économique, est l'une des plus importantes et des plus bénéfiques pour les deux pays de l'histoire de l'humanité.
Can I just ask you, you're talking about continuing to support consumers even if the consumer price on carbon is gone. Are you talking about, I mean, because people are going to spend more if the industrial pricing system is there, it's going to get passed on to consumers. So you're talking about what? Cutting their taxes, giving them a refund? Like, what's your idea?
So I won't speculate on what Mr. Carney might want to propose in terms of new measures. But what I'm saying is that one of the unique features of the Canadian consumer carbon pricing was that the fact that it was both an environmental measure as well as a social measure. And we obviously have to find solutions to the fact that we will be losing emission reduction if we get rid of the consumer carbon pricing. But we also have to be thinking about how do we continue that support that was there for low and middle income Canadian families. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. This has been a great afternoon. We, as panel members, members of the council, were delighted and honored for the Prime Minister to call upon us to add our voice to what has been Team Canada effort. We wanted to acknowledge the work that the ministers have been doing.
Okay. That's right. I think, Anika, thank you. I think that's a good ending to it. We got Guilbeault. We basically have decided that I think Carney doesn't have a chance anymore. He just had Guilbeault. He had a bad start. The Liberals are already, they needed someone to have a rocket ship campaign. And the only one I've seen that hasn't had an error so far, well, I guess Freeland, but Freeland is like, it's going to be very difficult for her to do anything. But I think she would be good opposition because she's fairly feisty, and her reporter instincts may come in, but it depends on the Liberals. Remember, you have to be a Liberal member, so you never know which way they're going to vote. Right, a Liberal member, and I don't think they need to sign. We're drafting from. Yeah, I got hit. I got 2 strikes on my channel from an Indian company, and so I'm suspective of that. It was an Indian YouTube company, and ching ching. It means love. Really, it does. Doesn't mean he was getting money. But they hit me 2 strikes. Now they stopped it. They said my voice was in their song. Okay, I have a voice, but no one is gonna be saying I have a musical voice. Like it doesn't sound like music. And they were like, put my voice and their timing, and they're like, yeah, that's our song. Like I was talking. Like and so who benefited from that? I am not sure. I had been critical of many parties at that time, and well, it definitely was concerning to me to get that because I'm like, who, you know, do we have certain politicians benefiting from that I was critical of? I don't know. I just don't. I can't say. I just don't know. I don't know what you think. That was no bad luck. It was not bad luck. Nothing to do with, look, he's got something we know because we wrote a letter. This is like type of people that are all about reputation people. I think the social media reputation assassination, those days are done. You did it. You tried it. You tried it over and over. And you did it to many, many people, destroyed many people's lives so you benefit in a group attacking it. And now that AI is there, it can actually decipher when groups are working together and doing caricature assassinations. No, we're not there. We're not there. But it's the end of it, the hill. We're going down. AI is going to be able to defend the weak a little bit if the government allows them. And remember, the same people that were doing character assassinations were actually working with government. Like someone would have a reason, hey, let's destroy this person's channel so we can start a channel. This is what they did. They did this over and over and over. And social media, all kinds of people, eh? And like in all kinds of groups. It's just happened. Okay, this is whatever. And well, AI is now control. I get flagged. There's certain people who have changed their name and stuff, so I didn't know they changed their name, and they were always trolling, and they changed their name. Well, now the AI on it tells me what they've said, comments, not just my comments on my channel. I don't. This isn't an extracurricular app I have on my channel. No, I can Google what these people have said. I'm like, oh well, this person's a constant troll. That's one of them. So I'm a little bit, not much. I'm a poor guy. I'm a little bit aware of what's going on. When I was hit by this Indian group, they have 1.2 million subscribers, and they were hitting me with copyright. When that happened, I got other flags that came up about this company and what politician it most likely was attached to. And I don't know who. I can't say. But career politicians are just, they're scary, aren't they? It could be. It could not be. But PP, Freeland, Carney, Max, all WEF. Well, Freeland, she was kicked out of, no, Freeland wasn't kicked out of WEF, was she? I think she kicked herself out, if anything. She was like lauded as like the WEF. She wrote this book, and it was like for the people. If you read it in opposite, then you understand what she was saying, because that's the policies they did. Good luck finding a home. You will owe nothing. And I'm not happy. But so there are no Indian WEF MPs in Canada. No, WEF isn't the only problem. WEF is just a small group. That's nothing. Davos. What do you think? India has no Davos people? India is a very super duper rich country. They got billionaires and billionaires. Look at UK. Lots of Indians. Lots of India. And nothing wrong with an Indian. India at all. But the thing is that this foreign interference, politicians, Canadian politician reaching out and using foreign entities to work on Canada doesn't fly with me, because we only have a very small population. We have 40 million people, right? 45 million, whatever. There's countries with 7 billion, okay? One of their cities, one city in some of these countries could just destroy our politics in one day. And then, because we have such a small population, we have to protect our democracy 10 times more, because the influence from all these countries and stuff like that, it can be very easily done when you're using people by people. Right now, I think that, like I said, that wave, AI is being able to detect where VPNs and all that stuff originally come from. So, we're getting there. Now, Trump just did an AI bill, a huge AI bill. So America's going to lead it. And they're using AI because they have to, because the CSIS and FBI and all these people can't keep up with it, because it's like a PhD degree you have to decipher the bullshit, the gangs or the groups that are getting together. And AI is the one that can decipher it fast enough. It's right now. It's either a person with a PhD, or you basically a PhD in figuring out social media, so some of them could be 28-year-olds, but or AI right now. And AI, there's only so much of it, but AI is basically, they say to detect AI, it takes AI. So when these, we're not there yet, they are, that there's certain AI video you can't decipher, especially if it's any grainy at all. The reason why a lot of video is not allowed in court is because they are fully aware that it can be altered. Video can be altered, and a lot of times that court area doesn't have the wherewithal and the people to be able to detect it or not. They're like, we can't admit it because we can't tell if it's real or not. We don't have the technology and the technologists and AI to fix that yet. So they're saying AI is going to be needed to detect what's fake and what's not. And that's already there right now. We need it, but that's like going forward. And it's awful to think that we're going to need AI to fix AI. So this is just going to be it's a revolving spiral of things. Who's not on the website? Oh no, yeah, she wrote a book. Here, I'm going to write it. Oh no, she's not on it anymore. Well, she may have breached with them. She was a MP Freeland had a designated spy name against Russia. So like a lot of the hate against her, remember that there's people that are paid that are Russian right now that we're having a little bit of dispute with, if anyone's aware of it. They had a code name for her. She was anti-USSR when Ukraine was under the yoke of the Russians. And she was there fighting for democracy as a teenager, as a, a university student. And so she's been a spy. Known, right? So there's that about her. Like you can Google actually the best piece I seen on her being a spy was done by the Globe and Mail. If you Google that one with the Globe and Mail, you'll find it. Her book. Oh, she's got lots. Damn her, plutocrats. Is that the name of it? Yeah, plutocrats. Chrystia Freeland. Yeah, plutocrats. It was like lauded by WEF. Like they like hailed that book as like, hailed's the wrong word in this darn climate. Oh, wrong place. Plutocrats, the rise of the new global super rich. World Economic Forum and here we go. I got it. And this is on the website. January 19, 2025. The World Economic Forum announces that Chrystia Freeland, Minister of Foreign Affairs in Canada, Director of European. No, I don't want to accept your cookies. Join the World Economic Forum Board of Trustees. Yeah, so Chrystia Freeland and Fabola Gianotti join the World Economic Forum Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees serves as guardian of the World Economic Forum's mission and values. So there you go. The World Economic Forum announces that Chrystia Freeland, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, and Fabio Gianotti, Director of the General European Organization of Nuclear Research, CERN. CERN's actually a really good group. Join its Board of Trustees. Their diverse background strengthen the multi-stakeholder governance approach to the World Economic Forum is committed. There you go. It's right on their site. So she's, I'm totally, like, some people are like, I'm really against WEF. I'm not really against WEF. Yeah, plutocrats. But it seems that their policies, I think the world voting-wise, they're not electable right now. And putting these policies is not very good. If you want to get elected, it's you just bring up, say you're with that group right now. They've, it is what it is. You push things too far, push mass immigration without having like the demand in jobs. The jobs just weren't there, and then you push people out as the religion, one religion dies, they push in another religion that's asking for Sharia law openly. Freedom. There's no freedom with that. Trump said basically there's no thing is that a new immigrant to the country, this is going to look at, a new immigrant to the country has to respect the cultural and laws of the country. So if you're coming in, which they had in Switzerland, they came into Switzerland and they're demanding for Sharia law. That can't happen in America right now. He just did the executive order. I just read it today. Chapter 2, hollowing out the middle class. Oh God. What was chapter 1? Eliminating the working class. And 2, if can't. All right, thanks for